Lady posted
Mm-hmm.
40 marks, 8 questions, of which one is a programming question.
Sorry, say again, I missed you when that thing intersected.
Sorry, the person said 40 marks, so that the assignment or test or whatever we're going to be doing, it's 40 marks.
Mm-hmm.
And they say 8 questions, of which one is a programming question. So that means 7 multiple choice, and then I would assume the multiple choice ones don't carry a lot of marks. It's probably the bulk of the marks is coming from that last programming question. But that's all the info they give.
Is it just one programming question?
Yeah, that's what this. So again, sometimes the format changes slightly, with different people. So I'm not sure because they're giving 2 attempts. I'm sure they have a whole bank of questions that
Yes.
they're rotating because there's more than one attempt.
Yeah.
So yeah, just that's all I could find out from these chats. I
No
was gonna
problem.
scan.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. No, that helps. That helps. Yeah, I mean that means if you only have got 7 MCQ, that's light. That's a few questions right there. Which probably means that it doesn't carry a lot of marks, the whole assessment. And surely they do have a programming question, which I think or guess is one of the GUI questions. So we are going to look at that, at those GUI questions. And the good thing with GUI questions is if we do the Q timer example that I want us to look at, and we do the calculator example, those two should be like the most complicated GUI questions you can ever get. And so if you can do those questions, that means you should be comfortable with GUI. I think you've got also some self-study videos in GUI. So you should be fairly comfortable. And also this menu stuff is also some of the GUI questions also touch on menus and toolbars, which is what I want to discuss with you today. And then once we've discussed menus and toolbars and we've discussed GUI questions in general, we should be prepared for any question pretty much. I mean, I've seen those questions. They are not really bad. I mean, you must do design patterns, you must understand design patterns. You already have a self-study video on design patterns, if I'm not mistaken, which pretty much covers all design patterns and everything you need to know around design patterns. It should be this one. So watch this one. This should really help. Also, this one should really help. These two here, menus and toolbars and containers, these two, GUI programming recap. This is just a repetition of what's sitting here. Inheritance recap, not really that much. I don't think there is a lot of inheritance under, well, I'm guessing so, prior to seeing any of those questions. But I mean, you've got enough ground when it comes to inheritance. These really do a good job in terms of explaining inheritance from implementation and everything, and just giving you that high level understanding of inheritance and how it works. Then GUI programming, this is a good basic example and introduction to GUI, which also helps. And these just a revision GUI. So yeah, it does help with more context, but most of the stuff here is already covered here under GUI. Then you should watch these 3 here. I am going to touch on menus and toolbars and containers, which is these 2 videos. But you should set some time to actually watch all 3 videos because they are quite important. Then what I'm going to do is we are going to talk about how to use a queue timer, which is this stuff, and then how to use the sender function, which is also part of this stuff. That covers everything. And then we'll look at some examples from last year's past exam, like from the final assessment, the questions that were there. So we will look at those ones. And then, you should be good. So for menus and toolbars, you've got this project that I sent you. I think you've been with this for quite a while. I'm just going to go through this. I think it was under test for prep, I think. It's this one here. That's the project. So it outlines, or this was a UNICEF created project, which is okay because then you get to understand their code. But the most important thing in this project is this stuff that's here that we'll look at, how to build a menu, pretty much. How do you build a menu? And then we are going to look at how to use a container, which is all the code that you see in this item list file. So that's pretty much two files you should be looking at, item list and getting an understanding of how a container works, and your constructor, which is basically how you build a menu, understanding what action groups are, and understanding how you do connect statements with action groups. The rest of the code we would have gone through in detail if we were doing an assignment, but I gave you that MCQ, which covers the nitty-gritties of all the code that you see here. But for assessment preparation, most of their questions are here. And what is this? All right, let's run it first. Okay, build. Okay, that should not be showing up. There we go. So this is the window that it creates or generates. So the main window class generates this window here that allows you to put menus here. And a toolbar. Toolbar is this stuff here that you see there. Right now you cannot see any icons because we haven't changed it. But that's like a main window, which is different from a widget, because the widget doesn't allow you to create these menus that you see here in here. So this is the third type of window that you can have. So you can have a dialog. A dialog doesn't have these minimize, maximize options. You can just close it. A widget looks like this, but only that you cannot put menus on it. Then a main window is this one here that allows you to put menus, a toolbar here, which can go on any side, left, right, bottom, and you can do some nice icons there. Right now, we cannot see my icons because we need to put them. Okay, it doesn't want to show because it's on the other screen, I think. Now that I move it, okay, cannot move it. Let me just close this folder. 264. Can I open this at least? Okay. So let's go. Let me just try and find it. Oh, there we go. There's an icons folder, which is this one, which you need to copy into your project folder. Assignment 3. Okay, icons. I have to find out where I am. Okay, let's put it there. Build folder. Icons. So from your code, it expects icons to be in an icons folder and then a.png. So in my build folder, I have put my icons folder. Okay, so if we close it and run it again, wait, still not showing icons. Let me just check which folder I'm running here. Downloads. Okay. 3 projects. Okay, that should work. 7.3. I don't know how many things I'm really opening here. I delete. So I just get this to work properly. Let me delete this. Okay, 1. And let me delete this file here. delete this file here. Okay, let me close all of this and open this again from scratch. Delete that, delete that. Okay, happens. Right. Okay, let's run it. No. Reference folder for P. Put that inside my build folder, which is this folder here. Okay. Okay, now let's run it. There we go. Now we've got icons showing. So now you can clearly see that here's my toolbar, here's my menus, and all of this. So usually during your assessments, they expect you to be able to write code to build these menus and also set this central widget. So at the center of this main window, there's a text edit. So if I do something like add barcode, description, stock, whatever that is, and whatever that is, like, okay, you can see that there's a text edit here at the center of my main window, which is referred to as the central widget. In other words, it's a widget which is embedded at the center of your main window, and you can use any widget for that. Yeah. So the code for this, like how do you build a menu? So this section here, where you've got file and edit, is the menu bar. And file and edit are the actual menus. And then these are referred to as actions. Open, save, exit, edit. These are actions. And then these can be grouped together into what's referred to as an action group. So that's the code we want to look at. It's not very difficult to understand, really. It's basically inside your constructor. During assessments, they don't even want you to do icons. So this Q icon part can actually fall away if we wanted to remove it. Or to make it look easier, actually, I can just delete this icons code here totally, like that. And then it should look much simpler. So to build a menu, you start by creating a menu bar, right? And normally if you do it in a structured way, like starting with the menu bar, then the actions, I would take this line and put this like right at the top, right? So what you do is you create a menu. And to do that, you can use the menu bar function. The menu bar function returns the menu bar for you. And so it allows you to, instead of doing something like Q menu bar, bar equals new Q menu bar, like this. Instead of doing this and then going bar dot add menu, you can simply use the menu bar function. So you don't have to do a menu bar separately and then use this menu bar to add your menus. So the menu bar function makes it just easier. You don't have to do this, but this would have been another way. So the menu bar function returns the menu bar for your main window. And one of the first function you should know is the add menu. The add menu is what you use to add the file menu and the edit menu. So the code here is a bit all over the place because it doesn't matter, it's a hierarchy, but if I do it like that, then it should be a bit easier to see what's going on. So you can create your file menu and your edit menu. Now, the ampersand is just a shortcut. It means that I can press Alt F on my keyboard to open file, or I can go Alt E to open the edit menu. So you put this ampersand behind your shortcut character. So it can go anywhere. Like here you see it goes behind X, which means if I go Alt X, I exit. So it's used for specifying your shortcut characters. So to build a menu, it's very straightforward. You just go menu bar, add menu, you put file, you put edit. Now you've got your two menus. Now to do actions, you are going to use the add action function. So you go into the menu that you want to add actions on, and you just go dot add action. So you can go, if to add actions under file, I can go file menu dot add action. And then I can simply put the text for my action. So these are the drop downs, right? But so we could do this 3 times for open, save, and exit, right? In this case, add action, then I say open, and I do it for save, and I do it for exit. It works, right? But sometimes if you want to later on use a toolbar, it's more convenient to use an action group. An action group is just a grouping of actions, which means I can group these 3 actions together, right? And once I've grouped these 3 actions, I can use this group to refer to these 3 actions. That's what happens here. So we are going to talk about the toolbar later, but what we want to do, if you look at this user interface, we want to create actions that are going to go under the file and edit menus. We also want to put those same actions on the toolbar. So you see that you've got file here and these 3 actions, and then you've got edit and these 3 actions. We also want to take these 3 actions and put them here on the toolbar, right? Right now it's showing like this because I removed the icons, just to make it clearer which would look like without the icon. But these 3 actions, open, save, and exit, are these same actions that you see here. So since I've removed the icons, you can actually see the actions by their names. These 3 actions that you see here are these 3 actions, which means in total, we've got 6 actions, 3 here and 3 here. But these 6 actions are being displayed twice, once under the menu and once on the toolbar. So in total, it looks like we've got 12 actions, but no, it's just 6 actions displayed twice. And take note of this because these are the things they ask in the MCQ questions, right? So to not write this code, so if one way is to just have 12 lines of code, one that adds open here and open here, one that adds save here and save here, one that adds exit here and exit here. So already you see that these 3 plus these 3, that's 6 lines of code. Now, if you are using since it's the same actions, this is where you can use an action group. You can simply say, I want to create these 3 actions and add them under file and also add them on the toolbar once. So to do that, that's where you do an action group, which is what you see defined here. Action group equals new Q action group. So we've got this file group, which is an action group. So instead of adding these menus directly under file, like I could have done this here, I could have done it here like this. I could have gone, I want to copy this, Control C, Control V. Instead of going file menu dot add action, right? Which means I'm adding this action directly on the file menu. I do it on the file group. So I go file group dot add action. Then you put your action, new action, new action, new action. Q action is what you use for the actual action item, right? So here I can decide to put this directly under file. Add action is the next function that I want you to remember. So you've got add menu that you use to add a menu on a menu bar. Then you've got add action that you use to add an action either on a menu or on a file group. So in this case, we are using a file group, an action group. So we want to do this, right? Now, with a file group, I'm creating 3 actions. So you can see in brackets, I go new Q action, and I give it the name of the action, open, save, exit. So I've put 3 actions in this file group, right? You can come through.
I just want to check quickly. After like the line of code, for example, in the top dates, it's Q action group, and then it's got an asterisk. Are we referring to, is that like a pointer or something? Because I know we use that.
Yes. So under GUI programming, when building user interfaces and menus, everything you define must be a pointer. Everything. So what you see here, it's just a syntax issue. A formatting preference. You can do it like this, same thing. or this asterisk can go on this side. Oh, sorry. It can go.
Yeah, it's like suspended in the middle, so it looks almost like it's like you're
Yeah.
multiplying something, or you know what I mean?
Yes. No, yeah, makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. So
Okay.
whenever you're
So
defining a
you're not
point,
pointing to the actual object, you're pointing to the address of the object,
yes. So if you're
not to the actual object, right?
yes, yes.
Okay.
So if you're defining a pointer int, okay, let me put my keyboard lights here. Where is it? There we go. If you're defining a pointer int x, you can also, it is exactly the same as going int x, which is exactly the same as going int x. Same thing. It doesn't matter where it goes. It can go right in the middle. It can go on the left. It can go on the right. It's exactly the same thing. So you can write your code whichever way you find easier to read. That's what's going on here. So when defining user interfaces, everything that you define must be a pointer. So here we are defining our file menu, our edit menu, and then here we define our action group. And probably if it's going to help to make it easier to see, you can just do it like that. That's our file group. And then on the file group, which is an action group, we are creating 3 actions. So add action is the next function you mustn't forget, because that's how you create an action, right? Direct onto a menu or onto a file group or onto an action group, right? So now that you've got these 3 actions, you want to put these actions onto the file menu. So now you simply go file menu.add actions, and then you access all your actions in this group, which is group.actions. That's how you can then put these actions under file. The same actions you can also put on your toolbar. We'll get there soon, but you can see that I'm also going toolbar, add actions, and I access the same actions, file group.actions. So in this case, we are creating 2 action groups. One for actions that go under file, which is these 3, and another group for actions that go under edit, which is these 3 actions. So I've got file group and edit group. And I put 3 actions in this second group, 3 actions in this first group. So now in total, I've got 6 actions. Now, actions that are under file group, I want to put them under the file menu. Actions under edit group, I want to put those under the edit menu. So what I would then do is I would go file menu, add actions, and access actions in this file group. Then edit menu, add actions, access actions in this edit group. So this code here does not change. And one of the questions from last year that was under the coding section wanted you to do this without the icon. So we didn't have this part. It would just be like this, right? And in the exam, you don't even need to worry about using this keyword. I mean, the code can really be simplified into just this, just your action and your name of action. And sometimes the ampersand can even be removed. So you can see that it can get really simple, this code here. Like in an exam context where you just want to do exactly what the question wants, you see it gets like really simple. And there you go, no ampersands, nothing. That's just creating 3 actions. And that's it. So I can do these 3 actions like this, and I can do the other 3 like this. So in here, because they were using icons and all of that, it does look a bit complicated, but it's actually not that complex. So you've got to understand your hierarchy from a menu bar to menu to actions. And when you get to actions, you have 2 options. Put those actions directly on the file menu, or put those into a group and then use the group to add those actions under file and onto a toolbar. So that's how you do your actions on your menu. Then your toolbar is this region that you see here. That's your toolbar. How do you do it? You just define a new toolbar. Q toolbar equals new Q toolbar. You don't even need to put anything in brackets. You can just do it like that, right? That's it. That's a toolbar right there. Everything is a pointer. Then once you've got a toolbar, you need to add your toolbar to your main window. And the line that does that is this add toolbar here. Doesn't matter which order you write this code in. So I'm going to do it like this. So you create a toolbar and you add your toolbar to your main window using the add toolbar function. Now, this function takes 2 arguments. The toolbar that you're adding is the second argument. The first argument is where it goes. Now, In the exam, they can tell you where. They can say, we want it at the bottom, or on the left, or on the right. So take note of this enum here. You go QT, double colon, then you specify where. Is it top? Is it bottom? Is it left? Is it right? And the good thing is the only part that changes is here. So if they want it at the bottom, you just go bottom toolbar area, and that's it. Or if it's, oh, wait, yeah, sorry, bottom toolbar area, double T here, right? That's like for the bottom. If it's left, you just go left toolbar area. If it's right, you just go right toolbar area. So this is quite important. How do you add a toolbar to your main window? Once you have a toolbar, the next thing you do is you just put your actions. So I go toolbar, add actions. Now I do this twice because I want to put actions that are in the file group, which is this group here. And I want to do it also for actions that are in the edit group, which is this group here. This line, add separator, is not really important. It's this little thing that you see here. There's a line here, which is a separator. It's just a fancy thing, normally not even required during the exam. So in the exam, you just do that. No need to do a separator. And that's how you build a menu, and that's it. So it becomes quite straightforward to practice because you can train yourself how to build a menu from scratch, like starting with menu bar.add menu, right? Then the name of the menu. So I've got 2 items here. Then your actions, you can create a group if you want, put your actions into a group, right? So you go action group, give your group a name, and you put your actions in a group. Now, the good thing with exams is they don't want you to do 6 actions. Normally they give you one action. So they would say build 1 file, 1 menu, 1 action. That's normally the exam setup. They don't want you to repeat this code 3, 4, 5 times because if you can do it for 1, you can do it for 10. So the idea is not for you to write many lines of code, and you'd see that in exams they would simply say build a menu that is 1 menu, like file, and 1 action that says maybe run cookie, whatever. You understand? So you'd have 1 line of code here, which does your menu. Then you've got 1 line of code, which does your action. Sometimes they don't even want a group. So you just go file menu dot add action, right? Or
Yeah, I
if
was just about to ask that, Edmund, that if there's no, if you're only doing one, then adding a group doesn't make sense, right?
yes,
Because not really
but
saving. Actually, there'll be more code, right? Because then
yes,
you have to create the line for the group.
correct. At the same time, if you still are required to do a toolbar, you might consider a group and put that 1 action in the group, right? And even if it's 1, you may not, and here's what I want to show you the flexibility here. So you see that in this case, we did a group, right? And I said you can add an action directly inside a group, or you can add an action directly inside your file menu. But now let's say you want to do a toolbar. You can still use a group and put 1 action. So you can have your 1 action, put this in your group, and use your group to attach your actions onto the menu and onto the toolbar, right? Which is okay. So I would recommend using a group because then it allows you to access your actions. If you do it directly under file menu, remember you don't have a variable for this action. You're doing it directly on file menu, which means when you want to add this action on the toolbar, you might be able to go file menu dot actions. That still works. So you've got a bit of flexibility around how you want to do it. It still works because here I'm just adding my actions directly onto the file menu and using file menu to access those actions when adding them to your toolbar. But the standard way that your code is written and taught is to use an action group if you want to add your actions here and there. So one option is to just use a group, put 1 action, then use your group to attach your actions onto the menu and onto the toolbar. That's one. If you want to avoid a group, like I said, you can just put it directly on the file menu and then use your file menu here. Another way also, let's say if it's just one action, is to create the actual action. Q action, action equals new, equals new Q action, and then just give it your, action name here, right? And then you can then attach your action to your file menu. So you can now go file menu, add action, and then you can say my action. That's one. And you can still attach this action to your toolbar. So you can go here, toolbar dot add action. So now take note, there is an add actions function and an add action singular function. So the reason why I'm showing you this is to make you understand that the most critical thing is to understand the kind of menu that you want to build. Like it is file, then under file, I've got open, save, and exit. How you get there, you've got a bit of flexibility around which options you want to go for. That's number one. The last thing I want you to take note of is signals and slots. You need to connect your actions to a function that will be executed when that action is clicked, right? Now, take note of two things here carefully. Number one, option number one is to have one function for all your actions, right? So what you see here is that option number one, where they provided one function to handle all your actions. And what you see is they connected all their actions to this handle action function or slot, which means inside your main window, you're going to define a slot that handles your actions, right? And inside your main window, you then connect your actions to your function. So with this option, since it's 6 actions, you can connect them using your action group. So this means action group. Now, remember when you're connecting a push button, your signal is clicked, right? When connecting actions, your signal is triggered. That's what they use. So actions don't emit a clicked signal. They emit a triggered signal. So option one is you have one action, one slot to handle all your actions. So what you see here is that we connect these actions using the action group, which means whenever anything from this action group has been clicked, just call this function, right? And provide the action that was clicked. So this sounds a bit more complex. Now, if we were doing just one action, for instance, my code could simply be like this. Let me just take out all the noise and show you how simpler this gets, right? I could simply have my file menu. Here's my action. I can add my action to my file menu. So I go file, menu, dot, add action. There's my action, right? It's only one. Then I can do my toolbar. Here is my toolbar. There. It's at the bottom. And I take my action and put it on my toolbar, right? And then I can connect my action to a slot. So I can now go connect action, signal triggered, this slot and action, for instance. Well, in this case, I might have a function that handles my action. So I can have some function here. And that's it. Which means in my header, I simply define a slot for it, some function, which will be executed when my action is triggered. So you then see that this code can become really simple in terms of creating a menu, adding an action, putting the action to your menu, putting that action to your toolbar, creating the toolbar in the right location, and connecting the action. Done. So you have to train yourself building a menu from the menu to the action to connecting those actions. And here there is no action group. So in the exam, mostly for your questions, that's what they do. Their questions are just about one menu item, one action, toolbar, connect. Done. So you can see that you can practice this code without an action group. If you have two actions, again, you can choose to do it like this, two actions, and you put your actions. And remember, you are mostly worried about functionality in the exam. Action groups are a matter of convenience. They just reduce your lines of code. So if you're struggling with action groups in the exam, you can just have those many lines of code and just repeat add action everywhere, as long as it's correct. That's what matters. But the moment you've got more than one action, you might consider to use an action group. And again, the hierarchy is the same. If I had an action group, I would put my actions within my group. And then here, I'm using my group. And here, I'm using my group. And here, I'm using my group. And that's it. But just take note that when using a group, let's say if this was a group, your triggered function here must send a Q action. So you put Q action here, pointer, and your function should also receive a Q action. So you go Q action pointer, like that. That's what it looks like, which is what you see here. Q action, Q action. That's basically how you build a menu. And it just becomes
sorry for the questions, Edmund. So how come we're using that Q action pointer? Because whether it's a group or whether it's a single action, it's still this. It's still there's still some trigger happening there, right? So whether it's multiple or one, it's
yes.
So how come for the group we put the Q action pointer in, and we don't for the node?
So if it's a group, remember what's happening here is, because you are connecting a group to a function, the question is when this is running, you don't click a group here. A group is not clickable. You're going to click one action. So because you're connecting a group, how does your function know which action was clicked in this group? Because this group is going to emit a triggered signal whenever one of its actions is clicked. So the reason why this triggered function sends an action is that it's telling you which of these within your group
I get what you're saying. Because if it's one, you don't have to specify, but if it's more than one,
exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So if it's just one, if you're connecting an action to a function, it's that action. So here I'm connecting a Q action. So your function is responding to this one action, right? There's no confusion here. So your function is responding to this one action. But if it's a group, your function is responding to any of these actions. So number one, if you just go into the details of this code, you see that this function receives a Q action, and then it decides which one is, if text was open, if text is save, if text is exit. Okay. Now it is an if-else statement, which then says which of these actions is clicked, and it says if it's this one, do this, if it's this one, do this, if it's this one. You won't go to this level in the exam though, but I'm just trying to make you understand that because here I'm using one function to handle any action, within your function you've got to put some logic to decide which one. But if I'm doing it like this, my function is just responding to this one action, so it is only one thing to do. Like another way we could have done this is to have 6 connect statements, one for each action. And this would have been a function, this a function, this a function. All of this would have been in a separate function. But again, it's just another way of doing it. But for the exam, though, you don't have to worry or complicate your life. And in the exam, actually, because you don't get to implement those functions, you can simply use one function for all your actions, because all they want to see is that you can do the connect statement, which is this. You don't get to the part where you have to go and implement this function and then do the if else. And honestly, for the exam, mostly they just give you one function, one action. just one menu, one action, da, 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 da. So most of your effort should go around, how do I build a menu with only one action? Or what if I want to use an action group? How do I do it? So yeah, you can just practice along those lines.
Okay, perfect. Just one more thing, not related to this one though. I've just checked one of the guys that wrote the assessment already. So they mentioned on the first attempt they got a traffic light question,
Yes.
for the big programming question. And then on the second attempt, they tried it again for some reason. And then they got a fortune cookie class or something like that. So
yeah, we'll look at those questions. Yeah, it's the same questions from last year. So we'll do the traffic light question, we'll do the fortune cookie question, then we'll do the menu question, which is this one I'm talking to you about. So the traffic light question, that is why I say we want to discuss. Just open this quickly. I should be able to show it right now. Sorry for the light. Where is my last class? It's not this one. It's not this one. It's not this one. This one, I think. Yeah. So I said we want to discuss 3 things before the exam, right? And so we talked about the big 3, which is, it will help with some MCQ questions. We'll look at those questions together. And then I said we want to do menus and toolbars, which is this part that we're talking about right now. And then I said under GUI, want to look at queue timer. So that's your traffic light question. Then fortune cookie question is just a general GUI, like it's just a general question, which is this part. So we don't even need to do anything for the fortune cookie question. It just looks. But I think if I remember well, it should also touch on timer. Then there's also another question which touches on the sender function, where you have to connect. You do the same thing that we are doing now, where you connect 3, 4, 5 push buttons, but to one function, which is where this comes into play. So I want you to get the background of these concepts before we look at the actual fortune cookie or traffic light question, because then you know what we're talking about, and then it becomes easier for you to even understand the question. Even if you get exactly the same question, I still want you to understand what you're doing, so that even if you pass, you've got an idea of what happened or how it worked. At least I need you to have that for those who are going to proceed to the next course, because then you've got a foundation and you can remember sort of like how everything was wired together to produce that solution. So there were about 3, if not 4 questions. I've got all of them. So we'll talk about them. But at least I want you to understand where this is coming from, so that when we do the question, you know exactly what we are doing and why we are doing it. So for the question that touches on building a menu, that's exactly what we will do. And I want you to know exactly why we are doing it, where we are coming from. Because if I just throw code at you, you may have no clue what's going on with the code, and you have no idea. Like, you end up just trying to do a copy paste job and you've got no clue what's happening. And I don't like that. I want you to at least know where this is coming from, how it works. You've got this whole project already, so you can go and play around with this code, and play around with all of this stuff. Like for instance, we could, if we want, just comment out all of this. For instance, just comment this out. And where's our function to add toolbar? Oh, there it is. Yeah, we can just comment this out, and you've got this to play with. So if you run this now, you just see that we've got one action, one thing everywhere. So it allows you to play with the code, see how it works, be comfortable, and then you know exactly how menus work. In this code provided here, there was a lot of fancy stuff that, let me just delete this stuff here. Oh, it's fine. Let me just do this. It doesn't have to do anything. Is that all? Why it's complaining? Yeah, so I was saying there's a lot of fancy stuff happening here, like the icons and all of that, which is not important and might cause confusion. Anyway, we are back here, so you can see that we've got our file menu. Here's our action, and our toolbars at the bottom, and here's our action. And it's that simple, that's all they want. So they might give you a pitch and say, write the code that creates this menu. And when this is clicked, do this. So whatever needs to be done is what your function is going to do. In this case, I didn't implement the function because it's not really what we want to talk about today. But your function is going to be there, and you can implement your function and do whatever you want to do if this action is clicked. So you can actually just play with the code and see how simple it gets once you understand how to build a menu. Otherwise, that's it. And also have those options around when or why would you want to use a queue action group. And again, it's a matter of convenience. It just reduces your lines of code and makes it easier to add the same actions in different places. That's it. Then they do ask about that. And that's it. So there's nothing fancy or complicated with actions. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. So you've got this. You can also go and look at the existing code. These icons are not important. And that's it for menus and toolbars. So the next thing I wanted I thought I would do that today, but we'll do it tomorrow, was to talk about containers. So building menus, that's it. It's that simple, nothing else. Then we wanted to talk about containers. So remember, you've got a queue list, right? A list of items, but you also have what's called a queue map or a queue vector. It's a few options. So in this same solution, we used a queue map, and you are required to understand how a queue map works, just in general. So we're going to talk about a queue map and how it works, and all the code you need on a queue map is here. You just find everywhere this list is being used, and that's all we need to talk about. So if you go into item list, you need to talk about how to get a value from a list, how to get a list of values from a map, how to remove an item from a map, how to, I think it's about 3 functions. Yeah, we need to talk about the clear function, values function, value function, remove function, and there's also a keys function, which is not here. So we'll just talk about these 4 functions and what this is, like what is this queue map here? How does it work? How does it, and how do you, what do these functions do? And that's it. That's it about containers. And once you've got that foundation, then we'll go to queue timer, just talk about a timer and how it works. Then we'll do the sender function. Once you've got that background, then we'll do those 3 questions: the traffic light, fortune cookie, menus and toolbars. There's another one, but I've got them. Yeah, we'll do those ones. It will be easier to understand with some background and foundation, pretty much. All right.
Cool. Thanks, Evan.
Yeah, all these videos, I'll edit them and upload them, so you can just go and recap any of the stuff that you are discussing in your own time.
Cool.
All right. Cool.
All
So
right.
I'll see you guys.
Thanks,
I'll see you
Edmund.
guys tomorrow. Okay, cool. Cheers.